I mentioned a couple of the things that I thought about the future. But as I'm showing you right now, this is a gentleman named Rick Rodriguez. He's one of the people on a board of one of the companies that I work for. And him and I have been in a really, really close relationship because he works as an architect for a firm that's one of the top companies in the world. And they are based in New York. And I knew him 10 years ago. And I said, you know, I'm going in the classroom with kids that don't even know what the word architecture means. And I'm teaching them architecture. He says, whenever you have a class, call me up, I'll come in and I'll just talk to them. I said, just you're coming in and looking like you do will be amazing, because they don't even realize that people of color are architects. And the fact that people are of color do a lot of things. They're used to seeing people in one or two places, and that's about it. So I feel like we have to expand. So the future is expanding the vision that the students need to see. This is my architecture class where my students actually have to reinvent the classroom based on, these are third grade students, by the way, based on what they think the classroom should look like or based on what their bedroom should look like. They had an option to choose, and I showed them how to work with the materials, which was basically cardboard and foam core, and of course some color and things like that. And they basically came up with their own ideas of what they wanted the buildings to look like, or the rooms that they were creating. This one was a classroom where the students designed what they thought the classroom should look like. And I'm sort of going to resurrect this because we're having COVID here in the States. And I think it would be wonderful for our kids to redesign the space that they have to be doing their classes in now, where there's only 6 or 7 to maybe 10 kids that are going to be in a classroom. This is Rick, and he would come into my classes and talk to them. And he would do a lot of really, really great things because they would ask some crazy questions, or questions I thought were crazy. But the wonderful thing was, they look like him, he looks like them. They never realized that a person from their background was actually in that field of doing architecture. They would have never thought that his company was a company that actually creates schools and buildings like that. So that's the future. We have to expose our students to everything that they don't know. And that's something that I try to do all the time. This class was called the iPad class. These are second graders, and this was in 2014, 2015. These students were tasked with using the iPad as a creative tool and as a tool, not as a consumer. So there was no game playing. I was showing them everything on the iPad, from the photographs, how to take a photograph, how to take an interview, how to basically listen. That's me talking to them, because that was 3/4 of the problem. They would not be listening unless they had my attention. Unless they had the attention that I was trying to give to them, to give them the instructions, they were not getting an iPad for their group. When they got their iPad, they had to do whatever was the course of the day. Some of the days they were shooting photos, some of the days they were interviewing each other, but a lot of the days I had them interviewing their teachers and taking selfies of their teachers, and then writing about the event of what they were talking about. So she had to have a conversation with her teacher, then she had to take photos of her and her teacher, and then she had to write about it and then put it into a document. This was me showing her how to do the selfie. And once they got that part down, they all began to use their iPads as a creative tool, where they had to actually make pages using some of the document things and make up ideas as to what a story could be. As you can see, we are the scariest things. They have to write a story based on that. That's a photo of a group that took a picture of themselves, and then they found how to invert the photo and made it into this idea of a scary thing. What that did was open up their imagination to start writing a story about something. And that in itself is what the future is also based on. I want them to start to look at things in terms of them telling their story, because they are the important ones. It's up to them to know how to use these tools for what they need to be used for. I introduced to them the idea of type, the idea of having some understanding that this is not just something that's just thrown up there. You find what this is. You choose the color. You choose how big it's going to be. You place it. You choose to put a shadow underneath these photos. All of these are choices and decisions. This is the beginning of using the tools as a creative endeavor to make a story and to make something said that hasn't been said, but something that's driven by their passion to want to touch you. And so that's what this was all about. The iPad class was very successful. I had a wonderful time with it. And the greatest thing about it was pairing students that had never worked together. I told the teacher it would be great if we put those two together. And she's like, they don't even like each other. I was like, they don't have to like each other. They're going to work together to make something possible. As we have been involved with works and jobs that we did not like or people we didn't like, we still had to go through it. I try to make sure that the students understand that. This teacher was wonderful and really, really great and very colorful. We were just talking about color. Very, very colorful. That class, by the way, was bilingual. So every time I spoke, I had to stop. She would translate. And after a while, they started speaking a lot more English. They got very comfortable with me. And they've been trying to teach me how to speak Spanish, but I'm really bad at learning language. I can only imitate. This is one of the pages that they created. For the final presentation, the students would have to make a little thing, stand up there and talk about what they did, also show it. We invited other students from other classes to come in and see their whole thing. They pretty much put this page together. They learned how to work with the actual program to like put these things together and make it happen. And this is the kind of things that we should be doing more of, because this stuff is not going away. I get really, really tired when I see students just using their iPads or their iPhones for playing games and things such as like their social media stuff, and not doing something that's creative or something that's going to make people understand that they're using it as a tool for going forward. This is a gallery space called the Pratt Institute. It's an art school that has given me the privilege of doing 7 shows there. And I just wanted to show you this is how I do a show. I first of all go into the space, I measure it out, I figure out what needs to take place there. In this case, you'll see later on in these photos, this was going to be a space which we were going to have 4 things go on. There was going to be a celebration of art. There was also going to be a formal celebration and an award ceremony. These are the sketches that I make, and I make them on the computer after doing little sketch drawings. This is where the seating was going to be and how everything was going to be laid out. This is the gallery wall space, and I have a design team that I work with, and I teach them what I want them to know about hanging the walls. During this time when I'm showing this stuff right here, the gallery space is basically being used for something else. We have a 2-day period where we go in and we actually create the space and make it happen. These are the sketches that I show my design team. They'll lay out where the chairs are going to go according to my specifications. They understand what's going to go on. And before we even go into the space, they've seen and they've understood what they need to understand about the space as we go through the process of actually making the space come alive. This is actually the space with the actual show going up and going in. This show is a celebration show in which we have artworks from students that are doing many different forms of art. I lay out the space based on the fact that I look at what artwork is there and I figure out how to tell a story with the artwork and put it through the space. I frame the artwork, as you can see. I put this here and gave this out because I wanted you guys to see. This is some of the artwork I'd spoken to you about last week about some of the artists that we worked, some educators in Africa, and they were working over Zoom, and this was like 2 years ago, and they were doing these paintings with our teaching artists here in New York on a Saturday class. They had a Saturday class, and they were doing these paintings, and these are what the paintings look like. It took 7 weeks to get these paintings into the United States. They had to go through clearance through the Kennedy Center, and the government had to sign a waiver for us to get them to get here. But once we had them, we had a really beautiful show. I think there were 25 of these paintings. These are all 2 feet by 2 feet, and they're all done with oil paints. These are some of the artworks that are going on in the show. And as you can see, I'm just laying out the show right now, just to show you what it looks like. As we go through the process, we make a nice little plaque of who the artist is and who the students are that are working with the artist. And because it's laying against the wall, that means that's where it's going to go up. This is the first day of laying it in. And these are some of the artworks. And what I do is I have my design team come in And once they come in, we start to actually lay and put the walls together. This is me going through the process of actually putting the walls together. Everyone knows what their jobs are. They're going through that process right now. We come in, we lay it out, and then we begin doing it. It's a long day, but it's a really, really fun day because you get to see this bare space come alive, and the story being told with the artwork going on the wall is really, really sort of something great to see in live time. And that's me laying out something there. So that's one of the other things that's very important, to show the works. This is what happens when the work is shown. We have a celebratory gallery opening. These are the students that actually did this work. And this show was actually a show where the students made calendars based on a theme. Here in New York City, I think the theme for this was, I forget what this was, but we'll begin to see what it looks like here as we go through it. This is, again, the celebration. This is photos. Everything is about a photo op, which is really, really wonderful. These guys made this beautiful banner right over here. This is a group of students that are, they have a couple of different kinds of disabilities, but as you can see, there's nobody disabled there when you're having a great time showing what you do. This is the celebration, and they were getting awards for their artwork. A lot of dignitaries come in, a lot of really, really nice people. Everyone gets a little plaque or something that shows that they completed the work. Again, taking the photo with the students around you and the artwork in a nice setting like this, this is what makes you a great person to know if you want to have people that want to raise funds for you. They love to see this stuff. This stuff tells the story of what it is you're doing without you having to tell the story of what you're doing. Let the artwork speak for itself. This is a panoramic view of the whole gallery space as it goes through this process. And this is one of the galleries with that works. This was the theme of jazz. And I believe there was like, was lots of works here. We even do it where I have the artwork on one section of the wall, and then during the opening night we'll have like some slides showing of the process of doing the artwork, which is again a nice little touch. With technology that we have now, we can do many different things. There was a period in time where you couldn't do this kind of stuff, but now you could actually show the artwork, and you could show how the work was done on a television monitor or a screen right next to it, or like we did before on a slideshow above it. And it's really, really great to like show and demystify the process of how this stuff all comes together. And as you can see, there's many, many great pieces of art here. Good ideas to look at. I like to mount things and I like to light it. So this is one of those things where these are three-dimensional coming off of a wall. I have a light source that hits it in the right space. This is the artist that worked with the students. That's the placard of the name of the group that did it. And this is the space before they had the award ceremony with the artworks all around it, and those chairs that you saw that was on the sketches laying out there. So this is always going to be something that will benefit you. If you could have any sort of a celebration or any sort of a show that you can bring in people, fundraisers, people who need to see it, the students' parents, relatives, anyone that need to see what you do and what they do that. It's very important. It's also important you see that this is done in a gallery space that's in a college. That's on purpose because I find that when we do a show at a school, it looks the same because it has that bad looking school backdrop. So if you can get a private space, a place that's given to you by a corporation or a company or something like that, you can do a show like this, and it benefits them too because it uses the space in another way, but it also is like a give back to the community. They'll be proud to say that we're sponsoring something that is done by students and helping out with the community. It's a really, really wonderful way to give back. And it's a great way to have a conversation with the community. It's also good for the students to see that because then they'll understand what it means to walk down the street, go into this place, and show people their artwork. It's very important. again, this is people getting awards, celebrating, talking about the work. And once you get all the work done, your family comes and says you're the special star. So that's the kind of thing we all need to go through. Um, I'm going to go over to another project that I do, and I haven't been able to do this recently because I haven't had the time to do it. But this is something where I was working with a group of students in Queens, and they were Asian, and we had to do a sculpture project, and we had all decided to make the Great Wall of China. And so I thought it would be wonderful to do it in 3 dimensions. And they had to break into their design teams, and they had to do research to get their stuff. So they had to find their photos and things like that. And we started working with massive materials. We started working with foam, we started working with clay, and we started working with paint. So I made the mountains out of foam, and the kids made the actual Great Wall of China out of clay. They had to understand what it looks like, and then they had to go through the process of putting it through the mountains that I had carved out of the actual foam. And then they painted them all together, and it was a really, really special kind of project. Again, what I'm doing is I'm trying to play with various materials to come up with how to work with different things to get ideas across, but to encourage students to also troubleshoot materials and to not be afraid to try something new, you know, and to look at materials to make it into something that no one would ever figure that those mountains were made out of foam that came out of old boxes of stuff that was sent to you. And it was great painting it with sponges and brushes and dabbing it and coming up with this idea to make it look like mountains and making it look like the wall. And they made their celebration day where they actually showed the photos of the actual wall along with their wall right next to it. So it was really, really a cool thing. Each of the students had to come up and present their actual wall and talk about their process. So that's a cool kind of project to work with. And it's really great for us to explore different materials and not be afraid of materials, because it's just really great for the students to know that there's so much stuff out there. And basically it's something that's got to happen. And again, along with that thematic of what the future lies, that's what the future is all about. This is one of those other things that I do, and this is digital architecture. I started this in about 2011 or so, 2012. I found a computer program that I can use that wasn't very technical in the way that it was designed. And then I sort of troubleshot it so that I can work with students down to like at least 3rd grade. These are my 5th graders, and they had to design a house. And with this program, they can design the actual house. They start off by making sketches, and then they take their sketch ideas, put it right next to the computer, and then they translate it. After I show them how to work with the computer program, they translate their sketch ideas and make their floor plans. And this is a floor plan right here. These are the rooms. And then once they start to make their floor plans, they put their walls on. They can add the name of the room. They can actually put things inside the room that define the room. A bedroom gets bed, kitchen gets stove, and things like that. And they have a blast doing this. The joy of this is that these structures are 3-dimensional. They just press a button, and that sketch turns into a 3-dimensional building that they can twirl around and look at it from all sides and make choices. Which way the door opens, which way the couch is going to sit in there, how the windows are formed, how big the windows are. This was my test school. They gave me a really, really beautiful space to work in with computers. And these computers were only used for doing like type things that were like, I don't know, like Microsoft Word stuff and things like that. I came in, put the actual program on the computers, and it blew the teacher's mind that within 3 weeks, the kids were actually making structures. And after a while, it became very important for the teachers to understand that they don't really have to teach anything. Their job is to learn. They sat down with the students, and I told the students to teach your teacher what it is you're doing. Because once the students picked up on it, they understood how it went. And it was sort of second language to them. They did a great job of like going through the process of actually making these, what seemingly looks like complicated structures, into buildings. They understand how to work with the software program. They're familiar with it because it looks a lot like game technology to them. And so they utilize it in that way. And I would say that it's very important for us to, again, like I did with the iPad, use the computer as a creative tool and not more of a consumer tool. Create things that are going to be engaging to the students, and you'll see some wonderful stuff. These are my younger students. This is a celebration day for a project in which they had to build a city or a town. And this is them on that last day. Their parents came in and they're showing off their stuff. Again, working with various materials to come up with these ideas. It's pretty easy for me to come up with the ideas. To motivate the students, it's great to get them to work as a group. And they actually had to like design where the road was going to go. They had to name this town, figure out which building was which. They were put into groups that were called communication groups, and they had to figure out how the land was going to be put down, where the road was going to go, where the house was going to go, where the sidewalks were going to go in creating this project. How are we on time? We're okay?
Go ahead. Go ahead,
okay.
sir. We are okay. We are okay. We are enjoying this. Go ahead, sir.
All right. So there was one other thing that I wanted to show you guys. Let me see if I can do it. If there's any questions, I will take questions.
Okay, probably while you are trying to search for that, we can take some questions that will not leave the space open.
Okay.
If you want to ask questions, SARS and MAS, we can use the hand icon on our screen. You see if you are using a laptop, is there on your screen, but if you are using a phone, you need to tap on the three dots, then you have the icons pop out, then you can choose the hand icon. But if you cannot get to use that tonight, then you can just unmute yourself and speak. If you have question, you can just unmute yourself. Okay. Mr. Professor Shegun Lude have something to say. I can see the hands up. So you can go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I was very curious. How long did it take the Great Wall of China group? How long was that project?
That was a 10-week project. It took, they started working with the clay by week 3. So what we do on the first week is we start to get our stuff together in terms of pictures. They make sketches. Week 2, I come in, we look at their sketches, and then we figure out from their photo references that they get which part of the wall they want to do. They're put into their design teams. And then I actually made those foam mountains, and I gave each group a set of mountains, and they had to like figure out how they were going to make the clay go through the mountains. So it was really sort of a pretty neat thing for them to actually go through. Any other questions?
Yeah, good evening.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I also want to ask, how much talk do you do in each of those sessions? I can see it's practically good, and then the students are always busy doing something. But you really have to explain before they start doing anything. How much talk do you do within these sessions for the students to understand and start doing something?
You know, that's a really wonderful question. And the best answer that I can tell you is that I try to talk through the work process, because I usually tell my students that you can do more than 2 or 3 things at a time, but know what you're doing. The first class is a listening session with sketching. So what they usually do, like I'm showing you right now, I'm showing you a group of students that are showing their project here. My students usually in the first session, they have to understand what the project is. So like for a building like this right here, they're talking to me, I'm talking to them, and I'm giving them the layout understanding of a building. I start off by just telling them a building has a couple of different things that you need to know about. And there's 5 elements. And then it's like a question and answer thing where they can like tell me what they know. So for that part of the deal, what I like to do is have them understand that, you know, a building has walls, it has a floor, it has doors, it has windows, and it has a roof. And then the rest of the stuff is just adding on to that. And there's a reason why. Like if the walls are going to be made out of sand, does that make sense if the building is going to be put in a place where sand is not a good material for it? And then we have discussions. By the second class, they understand that and they're making sketches based on it. And by the third class, they're actually working with the materials. I bring in the materials, and I show them how to work with it, and I show them how to actually go about doing it in different ways. And because I put them into groups and committees, each of the groups, when I walk around to them, we're having different conversations. Once one group knows something and another group wants to know something that I know the first group knows, I tell the first group to send somebody over there and show and tell the other students what's going on.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I'll still answer questions.
Well, Mr. Peter Godoni, has
Go
your
ahead.
question been answered? Has it been
That has
answered?
been answered. It has been answered.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You can just mute yourself, sir. Mute yourself while we take another person. So if you have questions, you can just unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, you can definitely answer. I'm just going to show some pictures. You can still ask questions.
Okay.
Hi, this is Tishan. I was wondering, hey, it seems like with your projects, the students have a big sense of ownership by you kind of setting up a conceptual class model where they're working in groups. Do you find that the students recognize that process, and do they gain some better value from what you're teaching them because they're more involved in a symbiotic relationship with you?
Yeah, that's a great question too. Yeah, this photo that I have right here, you see those three guys right over there? The center guy does not really talk a lot, but he was great at what I call a point and shoot. So I try to have the students work as a team, and I try to, by the third week or so, they understand that they can't break up the team. They have to go forward with whatever it is they're creating. And they learn the dynamics of who draws well, who listens well, who understands well, in terms of like, if I show you how to glue this, do you know how to glue this? Because like sometimes they'll be putting on like windows and things like that, and one kid will come and just slob it on there. And this guy right here would say, no, it's got to go like this. It's got to go straight. He might show the other kid how to do it. I don't want to be the one to do that. I want them to understand that they have to communicate. The class to me is about the process, not really about the project. A lot of it is about them understanding how to communicate with each other and be respectful of the fact that like they're going to get this project done, and it's going to be done to the best of their abilities. So that's how that works. And it's great for them to take a hold of it and care about it. I always talk to them about the idea of caring, because that's incredibly important. Great question. Thanks.
I will just like to make a comment, sir.
Yes, sir.
Looking at those projects, what I've discovered that you are able to actually bring about the 21st century skill, which a teacher needs to impart on the students. One you have just mentioned is communication, collaboration, which is working in a team, and critical thinking too, because that the process of starting the project from communication to like making research and all that, all this process revolve around critical thinking as well. Another, the fourth one, which is creativity. We can see a lot of creativity in their work, bringing out new ideas, bringing out innovative projects. That is I just want to make that contribution to what you have said so far, and that is beautiful, because I would love a lot of art teachers or art educators to see this tonight, because some of them, when we talk about the 21st century skill, most of them might not be able to articulate it or bring it down to their classroom. And you have really opened up open us to that tonight, and I really appreciate your presentation. I just want to make that comment, and I love what you are doing, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So we leave the floor open to others to ask their questions too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Questions, comments? All we just need is to unmute ourselves and speak. I don't want to mention name. Okay, Dr. Adenle is here tonight. Dr. Adenle, sir, would you like to make comments, sir? Dr. Adenle.
Everybody.
Okay, sir.
Good evening, sir. Our presenter.
How are you?
I'm fine. And you?
I'm good.
It's lovely. We are having another batch of interesting presentation tonight. And just like we have said last week, many of us are learning seriously from what we are doling out.
Right.
And we just pray that many of us who are on this level, teaching at this level, will learn faster and imbibe this culture and this skill that you are making use of here.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it has left the old ancient way of teaching. This is
Right.
modern way of teaching that we are learning. And really, it is not that some of us cannot do this, but the wherewithal, the avenue, the facility around us here has been hampering us. But having said that, I want to believe, because many of us that find ourselves on the other way, on the other side of the shore, they have really been doing fantastic, because whoever passes through whatever we do here in Nigeria,
yeah,
so to say, having passed through all the skills, the basic things, whenever we lay our hands on instruments or equipment, oh my God, it has always been fantastic. For our people who go on, who are sponsored on fellowship grants, who are schooling there, or those who go for sabbatical, or go, we have good stories or good testimonies about them, how they handle equipment, whatever that is available for them to use as equipment to bring out about their work, or in teaching students. Whatever they lay their hands upon has always been fantastic. And this, what we are giving us, we know that, well, Nigeria will get there one day. But I want to implore our teachers that, just like Dr. Ademuleya said last week, yeah, somebody commented last week, and I want to reiterate on that comment, that we are listening to these lectures not because we have everything it takes on ground here in Nigeria, in our classrooms.
Right.
But we can be creative.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can be creative and bring about. And I've just finished a Zoom meeting where somebody presented exhibiting. And one of the things I took away from that meeting is that you have to do exhibition of what you create for the community. So you are creating for the community to come and consume it. Thereby, by doing that, they will so much fall in love.
Right.
The old ideas or the mentality about art, one day is going to be eroded off by our presentation, getting them engaging them. So that is what I have to say for now. Thank you very much.
No, that's a beautiful point. One of the key points about that is that you have creativity. You're born with creativity. A lot of people don't use creativity because they're stifled by a system. I also like to say that I like to work with materials that are unconventional. They don't have to be art materials. They're things that are found that I use from all over the place, because I realize that there are teachers that would never attempt to do something. If I came in with the most amazing art equipment, it would be intimidating. But it is really, really wonderful for them to see how to work with this or how to work with that and to make this happen. And the idea will drive how they can go about doing it. Another thing that I'd like to say is that the joy of being a teaching artist right now is that, and in my field, I like going into classrooms and working with teachers. I wish I had teachers like the way that you're describing your teachers for me to work with. A lot of our teachers don't even come and do hands-on with us because they're so busy writing something or trying to not do something, as opposed to like realizing that the effort that the kids are putting out is 10, 15, 20 times more than they'll ever put out for that teacher during the course of the whole year. The kids, when I walk into the classroom, the kids give me a standing ovation. If I'm a little bit late, they stand up and they give me a clap and a clap. I'm glad you made it. We're so happy you're here. We were thinking we are going to have to do that.
That's good. That's a good one.
Something that's really, really special. And I think that that's what the teachers need to feel all the time. You know, it's a big thing. So forge on and do what it is that you do. Be inspired.
Another one. Another question, sir.
Mm-hmm.
You've not really answered the questioner, Peter Gandonu. The question is this: that how much of theory do you dole out to these students? Because your engagement is so robust that such that the turnout, the practical and all these things, the material, you exhibit them, and it takes time. Practicals take time, especially when it is project, because the end result you are going to exhibit them. And now, how much of theory do you go into your teaching at every level?
I like to basically talk about the fact that I make my living creating things, and that I don't get paid if I don't satisfy the problem that I have to solve. So when I'm working with my students, I tell them that they're solving a problem. So when we're doing architecture or any sort of visual arts, we talk about why the architecture exists. So if we're making a building, and so they have to create that. If they're making a school, they have to make it where it realizes that it is actually going to look like what they think a school should look like. It's got to have, you know, the right size for the rooms, the windows. They got to have these conversations. What rooms need to be there and what elements need to be there. When they're making a house, and the joy of doing a house project is a lot of our students live in apartments. So first of all, you have to explain to them what a house is. And a lot of them live in 1 or 2 bedroom apartments. They have no idea what a house is that has an upstairs or downstairs or a backyard. And when you introduce to them that you can have a backyard, it's a great thing. But then you have to tell them that it's not like a giant forest. It's just a space outside that. What would you use it for? And those, again, conversations that you have with them. So in theory, what you're doing is you're getting them to communicate what they think, and then you're getting to understand what they know. And they're building from what they know, and they're making it happen. So you don't get kids building mansions based on something they saw on television. They're doing something realistic. You know what I mean? I'm a realist when it comes to doing my art, so I expect them to be that way as well. And like I said, it always goes back to problem solving 101. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. I can stop swearing.
Hello.
My screen.
Okay, I just want to say, Professor Lude, just 1 minute, sir. I will come to you now, sir.
Yes, please.
I just want to say something. Okay, sir. I just want to add to, I guess, what the question Miss Dr. Adele asked is just based on our own curriculum here. I have taught the 2 curriculum, Nigerian curriculum and IGCSE curriculum, which is British curriculum. And when you compare the 2 curriculum, we realize that in Nigerian curriculum, you come to the class to teach students, art, type of art. You have to analyze the type of art, not in making art, not making art. just like British curriculum is strictly application. So they might learn about how to use particular medium and apply it in the classroom. But Nigerian curriculum is not all about that.
They
It's like
solve problem
teaching
with
students about, yes, they solve problem with their, in fact, it is also, the problem part is like the teacher bring in a particular problem in the society, and the student work around it. It's different from what we have in Nigerian curriculum. When you look at the curriculum, you realize that and other note taking things and all that, but it's not centered on application. Even IGCSE curriculum generally, what I've learned is that it is based on application.
Right.
And Nigerian learning is just a cognitive aspect of learning, just knowing, having knowledge about something, not knowing how
are not solving problem with it.
to real life situation, and
Mm-hmm.
and that we are not solving problem. But most of us, some of us now are now bringing in with the sustainable development goals in education. We are bringing in that, that's just initiative for this of the teacher, not that it is embedded in that curriculum we are made to teach. That's just what I want to add to it tonight. Professor Lude, you can go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm actually going to jump off what you were saying. The example that I have here in Canada is that schools teach music generally, like up to secondary school level. But if we concentrate on the primary schools, schools teach music, they teach art, they teach all sorts of subjects. But while the schools are teaching you to, sort of get you to get the rudiments, there are schools or extracurricular schools outside of the school system that also teach music, they teach art, and they teach other basics. So the kind of thing that we're seeing here today, even if the curriculum does not allow it, it's an avenue for teachers to thrive by setting up, something on Saturday. It could be for profit or not for profit, to go and, really engage students at this kind of level. And that brings me to the first comment that I wanted to make, where I had advised somebody to go look for a community hall to have an exhibition with some kids that he had finished talking to. When he got there, they asked him to bring thousands of naira. Thousands of naira, yeah, Larry, that's like charging for a wedding reception.
Oh, really?
Because goal of the community halls is, I'm sure those who are in Nigeria are probably laughing right now. The goal of the community halls is to make as much money on the weekends as possible.
Right.
So they couldn't even figure out that you want to come and rent that place for an exhibition. I felt really bad about the whole thing, and I feel that we need to go to our communities now and start telling them that they are part of
Community.
what's going to happen, like growing the children, helping them with learning new things, so that if they have 4 Saturdays in the month, maybe one Saturday could be reserved for doing something for the community. Here we have community sports, community, groups, community, all sorts of community events for young people, for old people, and they happen in the community centers. And the fees are minimum, just enough to cover maybe cleaning the space and so on and so forth. But in Nigeria, we do not, at least I'm not aware that we have anything like that right now. So you can't go to a community hall and want to do art on Saturdays. Oh man, they would want you to pay the same rates that a wedding would be paying, which is really unfortunate. I just wanted to make that comment that we have some challenges there.
Would they be open? Well, like this venue that I'm showing right now, this is part of Pratt University, and they donate the space for us to do this for 2 weeks out of the year to have this show go on. And it's a really, really sort of a great thing because it's an art school. And I guess for them, it's like, all right, we'll just let you guys have it for the next 2 weeks or whatever, and do your thing. And it's a beautiful thing when you're doing it. And I think because it's a college, I think it's a really, really great plus for them to have young kids come in and look at their artwork in a college space. It's encouraging for them to know that this kind of place exists. I like to think they're laying fertile ground for the future of where they're going to get students. That's the way I see it, and that's a very, very positive way of looking at it. I don't know if that's the way it is in Nigeria, but it would be wonderful if they could have colleges to do that as well.
I wonder if any colleges are open to that in Nigeria. I'm not very familiar with what the situation would be, but that's a very good idea, that we could have relationships between universities and colleges with the community itself, through art.
Yes.
Or the art. Yeah.
Great. If there's any more questions?
So we would like others to, yes, we would like others to make contributions and questions so that we all get involved in this tonight. And I don't want to start mentioning name. Probably we can just unmute our mic and speak.
Okay. I was wondering. Hi. Because earlier, I think hello.
Go ahead.
Earlier, someone mentioned how the African textiles are kind of being, I don't know, like taken out by China's reproduction. Is there any strategies that you have, Larry, of maybe utilizing a lot of like African material in terms of like the fabric artwork or just traditional artwork that we can start incorporating in the school systems, maybe through art or through the way that you have students creating buildings with cardboard structures? Like, are there ways that we can mix African prints or African textiles to create those, to like redesign what we can use those materials for and just kind of introduce them back as like an important part of like our culture and our art form?
That's a great question, and I think that would be a wonderful solution to a problem that has been pervasive. I worked in the fashion industry for like 5 years, creating, and one of the things that's very interesting is that part of my job was what was called a cool hunter. My job was to actually go out on the street and photograph what we think should be the future of the fashion that we're creating for the next 2 years. So part of my job was to get inspired by things and look at things, take photos of them, and then make my version of it. And I think what we're having right now is the fact that like a lot of the stuff coming out of China is just that. They've just replicated and did a very good job of it, making what's called knockoffs of everything. I think that's always going to be a part of what fashion is, and that's always going to be a part of like what the business end is. I think in terms of like educating students, it would be wonderful. Sigon was talking earlier about the fact that he was looking at tie-dye prints. It's pretty great to actually do that kind of project in the school with the students. But it would be really, really great if we had projects like that for the students to make the prints, but also have come up with a theme as to why they're making the prints, what the colors stand for, making it mean something, and then making something out of that. Whether that's maybe a T-shirt design or some sort of a fashion statement, or maybe even just a flag that represents their name or something like that. And then make sure that they understand it's a paying homage to where it comes from, which for our students here in New York, it's like a lot of our students are African American. They should know that a lot of this stuff comes from the original African things that are being made still to this day in Africa. And that's not taught in school, but it should be.
No, and I mean, I'm a New York teacher as well. And I'm thinking, I know in architecture right now, there's a lot of architecture in New York that kind of incorporates some form of like brick making pattern, like a pattern making or the textile. And I'm wondering if that could be an opportunity maybe to have the fabric, like our African print fabric, be a material for building. Like I just looked at a lot of your foam models, and I was wondering if, you know, instead of covering it with a piece of paper, if you cover it in a certain pattern, if students like cover it in a certain pattern, or so I don't know, like it seems like like you were mentioning the future of education, and maybe it seems like maybe in Nigeria, I'm not sure how the curriculums are, what you can and what you can't do with your class, but it seems like maybe that could be a way of where the future of education goes. It's like reintroducing historical material and craftsmanship to younger students, and just making, you know, changing it in an inventive way, and connecting it through that lens.
That's a great point of view. That are using sculpture. I mean, the history of sculpture comes from Africa, you know. I think that when we are teaching, the earlier question about theory behind what's going on when you're in the classroom, there's always like this mindset that everything that you're teaching is very practical, and it has to be practical, and it has to be this, and it has to be that, and that there's this certain goal that we're trying to attain. But what about the aspect of what takes place when you are playing with materials and you're coming up with something that looks and feels emotionally connected to you? You're making something about something that you feel, as opposed to like what all of this educated ideology is all about. That's something that's becoming less and less into what's happening in school. And to me, I think it needs to be done more. That's why for me, I can't imagine going to school now without having art classes. I work in schools where they don't have art classes for the year. You know, they might have one art class for 3 months out of the year. And that to me would be like crawling in the desert if I were the students going through school with the way that I am as a creative person. And I think we have to touch the base of all the creativity that students have. And I'm not just talking visual arts because I'm just a visual artist. I'm talking music, dance, theater, writing, poetry, speaking words, everything. It should all be, they should have aspects of that where they can like free form, understand and play with it and get a good understanding and recognizability to it. And then be able to present it in a way that they feel comfortable with. And that only comes from the aspect of playing. And that's something that's being lost in school, the idea of playing. We don't give enough time for them to formulate ideas and what they feel about things. Is there anybody out there that has a thought based on that? I guess not.
Okay, there's a hand
Dr.
up.
Yusuf. Yes, Dr. Yusuf.
Yeah, good evening. This is Abrazak Yusuf again, talking from Zaria. It's a very good presentation again this evening that we have here on this platform, and I'm indeed grateful to the presenter. I just want to draw our attention to something that I feel that, well, we have been discussing it. Because last week, IDEA made reference to the issue of freedom, especially on the curriculum. And I'm happy with what my brother, who teaches in the international school in Ogun State, has said this evening about the fact that teachers should be liberal, should teach, and he made mention of even the problem we have with the curriculum. In Nigeria here, we have a curriculum in such a way that you have some things to do, you have additional things that is added, that you have to do it and you are stereotyped to it. It's not as open-ended as we have seen in some of the creative things that have come from this program that we have seen this evening. And that's part of our problem. I intentionally raised that last week so that at least we could benefit, because if we discuss our problem in this type of forum, we'll be able to solve it. Part of the problem again we have is that aside from those schools who have their institution in such a way that they have autonomy, some of us who teach in public schools, when we teach, we have supervisors who come to supervise what we are doing. And at times, God save you, you have somebody who's not even your subject to come and supervise what you are doing, and you feel that you are doing the wrong thing. I teach in a teachers college. That means I teach teachers who go to teach. There was a time I had a problem with one of my students. He went to teach in an art class and tried to do a kind of group arrangement. But the person went to supervise, wanted to fail him for disorganizing the class because that was not the type of class he has been seen before in his life. So this is some of the problem we are having. And I feel that when we are discussing this, we know that we teachers in Nigeria, we have a lot of burden to carry, and we have a lot of battles to fight, even with our supervisors, our administrators, because they are also some of it. They are also part of the problems. You're an art teacher in a school. It's difficult for them to even give you a space to teach. It's difficult for you to get a gallery because they want all the money to go into science because of the way they have made society to look as if science is the whole thing here. Right. I'm happy that when we are discussing this type of thing, we'll be able to get a problem. What is it mean? There's one cogent problem I think I need to raise again, and I feel that we should begin to discuss it because it's been badly missed since the issue of pandemic of the coronavirus came. The way we teach, we so much that we need to do a lot of contact with the students. But here comes this pandemic now. We are supposed to be doing social distancing, and we are going to be teaching practicals. We are going to be in groups. I have been on a visit to one of my students who teach in a secondary school. Believe you me, the pupils in that class were 125. To an extent that some were even sitting on the floor. The facilities are not there. The only thing that I feel that are there in Nigeria, the population is okay. Any other thing, we have problem with it. And I feel that if we don't begin to discuss this now, schools are going to be reopening. For some of you who teach in international schools, well, maybe you have a control over your population. But in the public school where you have over 125 in a class, and you still want the teacher to teach, I believe that we should begin to find a way out. Thank you very much. This is just my contribution.
Thank you. Thank you. No, that's important. That's huge. I mean, we don't know what's going on with Corona right now. It's a bad time, that's for sure. Especially here in the States and in New York, we still are. Everything is up in the air. We have no idea what they're trying to do. I can stop sharing my screen if you want.
Okay, I think that will be better. I guess Professor Shagun, they want to say something to that.
Go for it.
I'm just, smiling a little bit here because this problem seems to cut from kindergarten to post-secondary through to graduate schools right now, this Corona problem, because the traditional things that we would do in studio, when we say we're working in a studio, has now shifted. Number one, and I think Larry touched on this a little bit last week, not everybody has materials at home to be able to craft something. And we're finding out today too, what we call the digital divide, where those who have money or they have the means are able to get computers that can do certain things, whereas those who don't have may not even have a computer to do anything at home. We all depended on being at the school, which was a level playing field before. Now, the society is exposed that, yes, things are not equal. So for me, I can work at home and do everything at home because I've built a library over so many years. I have my references. I can be in this room for 6 weeks as long as I can find food. But not everybody has access like that. And it's not everything you can find through Google. You still need human interaction. You still need somebody to be able to move something around. So this challenge is going to probably be a problem that we'll have to resolve in several creative ways over the next little while. Perhaps it's going to end up being a mix of classroom attendance and off campus or online attendance or however this is going to happen. I think something really has to be done. I just want to echo that there is a problem, and it's not just for one level of education. It costs right through.
Yeah, it's something where we're fighting through it right now. As we speak, this next week, the first week of September and the second and the third week, all of these questions for us will be coming to answers. And we still don't know. I've been playing with various ideas of how to do it. I've been doing films. I've been doing hands-on films where I actually film myself making art from up above, and I narrate it as it's going through, thinking about putting it on YouTube. There's all these other aspects of how to do this. Do you give support materials with Google Hangouts? Do you use Zoom? There's so many various ways to be done. But again, you've touched upon something that's huge. The digital divide is now the reality of like what is, it's almost like the have and the have-nots, right? You have those kids that I've worked with earlier in the spring that only have a phone. They don't have a giant screen to look at. Everything is on the phone. And if they have a sibling, it's a phone between them and their brother and their sister. Or if it's just a family, they have one phone to work with for like doing whatever's going on. I mean, these are hard conversations. Hopefully the school system here will start to realize that they have to give up the juice and give to those people that they've been like taking away from or starving, basically. Give them what they need to go forward, or else it's just going to get worse in terms of like what's going on. We're watching that right now. I was in Washington all weekend. I was marching the whole time based on what we're talking about, all of these things here in the United States. And it's not just the US, it's all over. I mean, you can talk about other countries, but I know this one, and this one has been cheating people that look like me for so long, and trying to hide behind, we give you this, we give you that. But they haven't given us what we need. When we go in and we talk to our little people, we realize they don't have what they need. You can see that very clearly, and no one can tell you you're not seeing what you see, so it's very important.
Okay, I would like to say thank you to everyone tonight for.
Thank you.
And I'm in fact, for me, I'm so grateful for Miss Professor Olude for giving us this opportunity to invite uh, Mr. Larry Jackson, because it has been a wonderful moment, and I have learned so much personally, and I believe all the other people that have learned from him too, and we continue to learn from one another and also get inspired from presenters. So for the month of September, we have a lot of we have lineup of presenters already, and we will unveil that in the course of the week. Probably on Monday or Tuesday, we'll get the notification. And we're trying to even move to the extent that, because the remote engagement now has become the new normal, and we need to do more, engage with one another, and also communicate, discuss, and all that. Also share resources too. So we are coming up with another platform, which is Wakelet. Wakelet is another opportunity to do a lot of collection online. Then we can all collaborate and share resources and all that. So in a short moment, I'm going to be sharing how it look like on the internet. I'm going to stop sharing this, so we can just take a snapshot of this particular screen now. But meanwhile, by tomorrow, we are going to send mails to everybody and get us informed more about that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to stop sharing this particular screen. Then I will move on to the other screen I have, or if I can get, okay, yes, I can get it here too. So this is how the wakelet look like. This is all these ones, just like we can have collections of pictures and write-ups, PDF folders, and all that we can share with other people. It's just like sharing like a magazine online. So we can have different collections. So you can see, this is my particular one, but the one I'm sharing with everybody can have their own page like this. And also we can also be part of the Art Educator Hangout where we can all collaborate. This is the way it looks like. It's coming up now. So the link to join that, I'm going to send that tomorrow. And also there is you can join through the link, or we can use the code to join. Why we are doing this, like, so that some of our presenters too that share one or two things with us can also put on some content out there for us to look at, in fact, after the meeting, because we all need to learn from one another, and some other people might not have the opportunity to also present at this time, or probably you see something that can inspire other people, then we can share it on this particular. So this creating connection, once we click on it, we can start creating. This is still new, that is why we don't have anything, but all those things we have done before, like the value of education, is going to be here, and we can all access other content, other materials. And I'm very sure Professor Shegun, we have so much to also share with all of us. So that will make it easier for us, and we can also work. It's a collaborative space, and the collaboration is the language of the 21st century, and we can do a lot of things together. In fact, on remotely, we don't have to now. Professor Shegun is talking, is communicating with us from Canada. We have Larry from USA, and we have some other people from other countries in Africa. Then we can also do a lot of things together through this particular Wakelet platform. So I'm going to send mail to all of us regarding that, and we are going to get in touch with Mr. Larry to Professor Olusegun Olude, so we can continue on this, so that we can learn from one another, we can benefit from one another, and we can also get more inspired through the work we are doing in our own individual community or backgrounds and all that. So this is what I would like to share with us tonight before we close. So if you have one or two comments to make, we can give room to people to make one or two comments before we close tonight. But for me, it has been an awesome time being here, and we are trying to get Mrs. Olani Abosede talking the other time, and probably we just give her some time to just speak. I believe the network would have gotten better from our side now. So, Mrs. Olani Abosede, if you'd like to speak now by unmuting your mic. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. I'm brief introduction of myself. I'm a textile. So I'm a textile designer. I make from a really from today. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hello?
I think we can just speak. Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Olani. But I guess next time we will be able to get more from you, and also probably get you to present one of these days what you are doing. We would really love to see your work too, because I believe that when we share our works, we can get inspired too. We can also learn one or two things, and also take that back into our own classroom, individual classroom, and also learn from that. So that is what I just have to say tonight. Thank you so much, Mrs. Olaniba, and we hope that you join us next week. And we'll be looking forward to a day when you be presenting your work too with us. Thank you so much for joining us. So I don't know if we have one or two comments to make before we close tonight. Is there any other person? We can unmute ourselves and speak.
It just, for me here, just a very great thanks to Professor Olude, because the issue addressed, I think he have given some leeway out that all of us should keep our hands on deck and begin to look at how we solve the problem of this new condition that we find ourselves. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir. I think with this, we will have to say
Thank you.
good night to everybody tonight. We have really spent so much time, and so that we can keep our video so short, so that every other person can enjoy it. So because of this, we want to say good night, and we want to appreciate everyone that have contributed to the program tonight. Thank you so much. Let's do it again next week, and God bless you all. So bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
Nice seeing
Bye.
everybody.
Bye bye. Thank you, sir.
Bye. See you next week.
Take care.
Bye, Larry.
Amen. God bless you too.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.